Welcome to your Barbados Today morning news update for Monday, May 28. Thanks for joining us. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. The new Barbados Labour Party government to get down to business today following its overwhelming victory in last Thursday's general election. During yesterday's swearing-in ceremony of a 30-member cabinet, Prime Minister Mia Mottley indicated that priority number one will be the economy. She says she will be holding talks with the social partnership today following last Friday's meeting with her economic advisory team.
The situation was so urgent that we started on Friday evening. And our first action was for the Attorney General, myself and Senator Walcott, Minister Strawn, Minister Cadell to hold a series of meetings, Dr. Maskell, to be briefed on the economy and where we are. This has allowed us to understand, to begin to understand the scale of the dire situation in which we find ourselves. Tomorrow morning, we shall meet with the social partnership, and as I promised you, and particularly in the absence of an opposition, that I shall meet with the leadership of the social partnership twice a month until we have gotten Barbados back to a position of safety and stability. And similarly, tomorrow afternoon, after that, we confront the issues of our debt and foreign reserves issues to allow all ideas to contend, because we accept that our decisions and our action must now be urgent to stave off the worst.
Explaining that the newly installed ministers and permanent secretaries were a mix of experience and youth, Prime Minister Mottley told the nation her government will be one of transparency, fairness and accountability.
But I do, however, assure the people of Barbados that their recent generosity towards the candidates of the Barbados Labour Party will not be misused or abused. We have seen that it is sometimes possible, even without commanding the totality of the membership of the House of Assembly, for dictatorial and law-breaking tendencies to emerge. I give you this evening my solemn word that it will not be so with any government under my leadership. On the contrary, I have already warned some of my parliamentary members that if I ever find it necessary, in the interests of fair play and balance, I am perfectly willing to convert myself into the most formidable leader of opposition to this government.
Addressing last evening's ceremony, which was attended by Governor-General Dame Sandra Mason, Grenada's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell, St. Lucian leader Alan Shastney, Vincentian Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves and other officials, Bishop Jerry Seal of the Pentecostal Assemblies of the West Indies urged the new government to serve with humility and integrity.
It was stirring watching you take your oath of office. You've come to our kingdom of Barbados at a very important time. We could perhaps quote the words said to Queen Esther, "You have come to the kingdom for such a time as this." And we don't take that lightly. But I want to ask you, please live and serve with humility. You have an important job. You have people that are going to go when you say go, and come when you say come, and stand when you say stand, and get out when you say get out. Don't let it go to your head. Remain humble. When you become puffed up with pride, we will take care of you.
Now, following the announcement of the cabinet on Saturday, there was some concern raised about the size of Mottley's 30-member team, which is 10 more than the previous Frundle Stewart-led cabinet. Ms. Mottley also announced the appointment of 12 senators, while indicating that further appointments are to be made in critical areas. However, political scientist Peter Wickham says while the size of the new cabinet is not ideal, it was unavoidable given the Prime Minister's political reality.
The cabinet size is not ideal, and I think many of us would have hoped that we moved away from larger cabinets and moved towards smaller cabinets. But the cabinet is a reaction to the political reality that has been handed to the Barbados Labour Party and the leader, and my sense is that she's trying to manage it as best she can. 30 MPs is a huge challenge, especially as there's no one on the opposition benches, and the opposition benches are often tempting, for a politician, especially one that may be close to the end of his political journey. So I think that what she has done by having a large cabinet reflects that reality. And, it's not an ideal situation, but it is one that's been handed to her. And I think she has been, or she has made an attempt to manage the politics, because the only way we can get to the end of the policy journey is if we deal with the political realities.
Wickham, however, welcomed the Prime Minister's plan to amend the Constitution in order for 2 members of the opposition political party, which amassed the most votes in the May 24 election, to have seats in the Senate.
I think that is something that we would all support. This is not very different to the other political reality that has been handed to Prime Minister Motley, where she has to deal with a situation in which there's no opposition. So effectively, she's trying to create an opposition, and it is not dissimilar to what Prime Minister Keith Mitchell would have done in Grenada, where he has essentially used the fact that the Governor General has the power to appoint opposition-recommended senators to sit in that role. So this is essentially what is being done. There are legal luminaries that have suggested that a change of the Constitution is not technically necessary, since the appointment is made by the Governor General on whoever advice. But I believe that Prime Minister Motley is going with a level of certainty. So it is not for the Governor General to choose to appoint, but it is that you create a level of certainty where the situation occurs that the Governor General is obligated to appoint based on the advice of the second strongest party in terms of who would have contested the election. So it's something that I support. I think it is moving in the right direction, and I imagine that it would help to make the peculiar reality that we have no more palatable.
In other news, this Monday, the Barbados Road Safety Association wants the new Barbados Labour Party government to place road safety on its priority list. BRSA President Charmaine Roland Bowen especially wants the new Mia Motley-led administration to enforce the Road Traffic Act, especially as it relates to breathalyzer testing, driving, and texting. She made the plea following 3 accidents over the weekend, which claimed the lives of 4 people.
We want us not to encourage, the bad practices on our roads, but we want to put an end to it by enacting and enforcing the legislation that is there, with a matter of urgency. Seeing, the amount of deaths, occurring on our roads repeatedly, and also, with the crop over and so on. And there are legislations which would be the breathalyzer, which would be the drink drive legislation, and the legislation for the cell phone and so on. We know that there's some tweaking that needs to be done, within the legislation. We are there to help, in any way we can, the BRSA.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
We pick up with news from our regional neighbors. The Bahamas is no longer on the European Union's list of non-cooperative tax jurisdictions. The country was removed from the blacklist following a recommendation from the EU's Code of Conduct Group. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest made the announcement recently.
The blacklisting or list that we were on did not come with any penalties, and so there was really no cause for alarm per se. However, this does cause some bit of reputational damage. And so that was our biggest fear, that we wanted to get off of this list as soon as possible to ensure that the perception that there is something to be concerned about did not set into the international community. So for us, this gives us another opportunity now to confirm to the world that we are a clean, compliant jurisdiction, open for business.
And finally, on the international scene, residents on the Gulf Coast are being asked to take subtropical storm Alberto seriously. Alberto, the first named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season, turned to life days before the formal start of the 2018 season and is expected to make landfall along the Florida Panhandle on Monday with speeds of up to 60 miles per hour. We get more in this report from Reuters TV.
The slow-moving system is expected to pack heavy rains and winds over the Memorial Day weekend. Florida, Alabama, and Mississippi have declared states of emergency ahead of the storm that is threatening to dump up to 12 inches of rain. Florida Governor Rick Scott issued an emergency notice for all of the state's 67 counties, warning of possible flooding and storm surge.
It looks like we're going to get a significant amount of rain. We have a chance for some severe flooding. We're walking into hurricane season. Everybody needs to get prepared.
Alberto is expected to intensify and bring wind speeds of up to 65 miles per hour as it approaches the Gulf Coast on Monday. But tropical storm conditions are already being felt as residents brace for the first named Atlantic storm of the 2018 hurricane season.
And that's news, but remember there is more on our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals and screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. Or you can also tune in to Mix 96.9 FM for the very latest. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good morning.